Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together we're Lippy and Grumpy Do Podcasting.
In this episode, Sucking the Monkey, the F1 crash bill for 2021, synthetic fuel, and a Lippy double bill.
Happy New Year, Lippy.
Happy New Year!
We're back.
We are! It's gone very quickly though, to be honest.
Yes, you're not wrong there. It has gone quickly. Now, we do owe our listeners a bit of an explanation about what's happened over the last 5 or 6 weeks. I've lost count.
It was rather abrupt, I feel like.
It was rather abrupt. So there's two reasons for this. The first one is the good news that you have got a new job, which means you have to travel every day rather than stay at home in your pyjamas.
Yes, I do. So the half an hour commute was adding a slight issue. And obviously my first week, I wasn't going to leave on time. I'm not one of those people. So I wasn't getting home until very late every evening.
Yeah, so we had to abandon what would have been this episode on, I think it was the 26th of November. So congratulations on the new job. And you're back into events. The worst time ever to go back into events is just before Christmas, but I did it. Yes, well done. And you've been fraught with a few COVID-related problems as well.
Yeah, the word we don't mention has been the highlight of my month. That's all I talk about now is COVID and discounts and cancellations and government guidelines, all that fun stuff.
Yes, well, I suspect it's with us for a few more weeks. Yes, but we don't cover that on this programme.
No.
So, anyway, the other reason, which is not quite so good, is that I had a number of medical tests, scans and biopsy, and I have been diagnosed with prostate cancer, which is contained in the prostate, which can be muddled up with other words. So it is highly treatable, and my dad had it a good 25 years ago, and it had progressed further than mine has. So I'm in a very good position to have it completely eradicated by a process called HIFU, which is ultrasound, not laser, as wife of Grumpy keeps telling people. Oh, it's going to be a laser. I putting a laser anywhere near that area. Thank you very much. So anyway, that did cause a bit of delay.
It did.
And I'm very grateful that my GP insisted I went and saw somebody, despite having a low PSA count, which is normally the trigger for further investigations. But in fact, it was getting up to the loo rather a lot during the night and having pretty poor flow as well at the time.
Yeah.
But it was there only for about a month. So it could have easily just been shrugged off. So, so it's not good news, but it is the best news
of the worst.
You could have. Best of the worst. It's slow growing, it's contained in the prostate, and it's highly treatable. So there may be some interruptions in our service over the next couple of months whilst that gets remedied. But apart from that, it's business as usual here at Grumpy Towers.
Back to the same old nonsense.
Same old nonsense. Right. So some while ago, we had our last episode, and we did get a bit of feedback from a number of people. In fact, this one is the episode before from the Screaming Tomato, who typically had done some investigation into some of the topics we discussed. And we talked about micronations and Sealand, which exists on a platform. And in Australia, where the Screaming Tomato resides, there is the Principality of Hutt River, which seemed to suffer the same problems as Sealand, in that somebody set it up and nobody recognised it. So it just completely collapsed. In fact, in 2020, it was completely dissolved. So even he gave up on it. So that was quite interesting, and we'll add a link to that.
I do have a question. Is Hutt River just a hut on a river?
No.
Or is it slightly larger than a hut on a river?
That's a good question. It's 2 T's, so I suspect it's named after somebody or something in the area. So it's not a garden shed floating on a river, if that's where you're going with that one.
That was what I was thinking, so yeah.
Maybe the river was called Hutt. Who knows?
Who knows?
The other one, which we talked about some while back, was the fact that Horatio Nelson was pickled in brandy, which seemed to be a bit of a mistake, and the fact that the barrel was empty when they arrived back in England meant the body was past its best, let's put it that way.
Yes.
And Screaming Tomato tells us something called sucking the monkey, or bleeding the monkey, or tapping the Admiral, which is the practice of sucking liqueur from a cask through a straw. Now, I suspect this was slightly nefarious sailors who wanted a small nip of whatever it was in the barrel. So they would dig a little hole in it and then put a straw in there and drink away, which I'm guessing they probably didn't do that with the barrel with Nelson in it, or did they? Which is why it was then empty.
You'd hope not, but some people just don't care, do they?
No, they don't. And it was different times, very different times. Interestingly, in Kentish Town, North London, there is a pub called Taping the Admiral. So maybe that's one that we ought to visit.
Oh, it would be cool if they sold mini casks with straws in them.
Yes, it would, wouldn't it? But it'd have to be paper straws now.
I'm not sure a paper cask would work either, would it?
No. That might be a case of a home-brought titanium straw. I don't get on with paper ones very well.
They go a bit soggy.
Well, they go soggy, but it's also, I'm not very keen on wooden spoons in my mouth. I find the same taste with paper straws. Yes, for some reason. I don't know why. The other thing that we had back in November was a picture of a Clarion rack system in a Mercedes-Benz. And I had a friend of mine contact me and said, surely that's been photoshopped. No, it hasn't. Definitely not. And I have got a link to benzworld.org, one of the threads on there, which shows one of the cars with it all fitted, and the guy had restored this car, and lots of photos. So no, it was indeed true, as they say on whatever that program is on the BBC where they lie a lot. Oh, would I lie to you? That's the one.
Oh, yeah. The clue's in the title.
The clue is in the title. So over December, we had our Advent calendar.
Yes.
Audible Advent calendar, which was fun to do. I don't think we've laughed quite as much.
Definitely not.
With one of these. And there were a few mistakes, which we rectified by recording it again, but then I unrectified by taking the one with a mistake in it. So there was, put it in. So there was one Lippy fun fact, which ironically we have got later in this episode.
We do have a Lippy fun fact today.
Yeah, bit of a switch round there. And towards the end of the year, Spotify gave people information about what they'd been listening to over the previous 12 months. And amazingly, the Screaming Tomato had listened to 1,669 minutes of us prattling on. That
is impressive, to be honest. He deserves a badge of some sort for that.
He did, well, I think he deserves one of our mugs. When I finally get round to organising that, we will send you one. He's also in the top 1% of Dido listeners, so it's not all good. Yeah. He does go on to say, missing your normal service. So, Screaming Tomato, we're back.
We are back.
And I also had a WhatsApp message from Davros saying, your grumpy fun fact about the meaning of mistletoe just won me a quiz at work. We are the gift that keeps giving. Was there a prize
involved with the win?
I haven't seen him to question him any further. I suspect it was a box of chocolates or something of that ilk.
Well done.
So obviously we're back to work this week. Well, you've worked over the last week, but I've just had 12 days off, and I sat down at the computer and I could not remember my password. At all. I just haven't got a clue where to start. Fortunately, I use a password manager, and it was in there, but I had to then go and fire up another computer that I could log into and go and find it in there. But it got me thinking about things over Christmas. And one of the odd things I found is that we had a number of Christmas cards that converted into a postcard. So if you think you open the card, the right-hand bit where you tend to write Happy Christmas and from rips off, and then on the left-hand side you've got a space to put an address and write something like "Wish you were here" or something like that. You can reuse it, which I think is a really nice idea. Except that the picture on the other side of the postcard is a Christmas scene.
Yeah.
So when are you supposed to send it?
Send it back next year to the same people.
That's exactly what I'm planning to do. Exactly that.
There you go. Happy Christmas card back.
Exactly. Yep.
Now, I think we need to ask those people if, I don't know how many cards they send out, let's say 20, if next year their 20 Christmas cards are all of the cards that they sent last year.
Or maybe we'll do an experiment next year where we'll get those sorts of cards and see what then comes back. So I thought that was quite humorous. I liked the idea, but then thought, what would you use it for?
Yeah.
Why not just have reusable Christmas cards?
Well, you could do a virtual Christmas card, couldn't you? That's
one
kind of
that
reusable.
You could, like a chinographic pencil that you'd write on the fridge or something, so you just rub it off. So some sort of plastic covering is probably not ideal, though. So the other big thing that happened in December was, of course, was the end of the 2021 Formula One Championship.
And ended with a bang. Not a literal black bang, but...
Wasn't far off it, was it?
It wasn't.
Believe it's still rumbling on, the whole thing about the race director. And I don't want to take sides here, but it did seem a little odd. But then I think it's been a year of very odd decisions by the race director. If you go back further, it's not a new thing.
I don't like to take sides either, but what I have been saying is both drivers deserved to win.
Yeah,
it was just
agreed.
a shame that that's how he won.
I absolutely agree. You wouldn't want to win under those circumstances.
No.
It's a little bit like if you go back into the 90s when Colin McRae won his only World Rally Championship. You could argue he won because Toyota were excluded because they cheated. But you know, that's the way it is. If you cheat, you're going to get excluded.
Yeah.
Certainly to the extent that they did. But it always taints that victory, and I think it will be the same Max Verstappen. And I'm really pleased that Mercedes didn't fight it. Because I think for it to be taken away and then given to Lewis Hamilton would have tainted that 8th victory. And he's a racer. He wants to win it on his own terms, not through the courts. And I think he was fundamental in Mercedes not pursuing it. I think that was the right decision. But obviously, the result of the race was a bit cockeyed. Anyway, moving on from that, I did find a list of 2021 driver crash costs from Sky.
Ooh.
So this is it's quite an interesting list. So this is in euros, and top of the list is Mick Schumacher having run up a bill of 4.2 million euros.
Oh, and they're letting him drive next year.
And yes, incredible. Max Verstappen was third with 3.8 million.
He did write the car off a couple of times, though, didn't he?
Yes, well, he's young.
Uns.
He's young. He'll be having one of those monitoring boxes next year.
Yeah.
Lewis was in 13th with 1.2 million.
That's very good going.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
That'll be when Max Verstappen took him out.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so you probably could attribute quite a large amount to Mr. Verstappen. And lowest, number 20, was Esteban Ocon in the Alpine with a mere 280,000.
Oh, that's not even a full crash, I don't think.
It's not, but I wonder how many laps they did. So maybe there's fewer laps.
See, my interesting one, where's Lando Norris? He didn't do too badly.
Norris? No, 12th.
Considering he had a few issues.
He did, didn't he? 1.4 million. Now, we watched the latest James Bond film on New Year's Eve. And I'm not going to give any of the plot away whatsoever if you've not seen it. If you have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it occurred to me sometime earlier, watching an earlier Bond film, that was James Bond's job to travel around the world and annoy bad people? Because that's all he seems to do.
That is all he seems to do.
Yeah, particularly Connery and Moore, they, as Bonds, they seem to just rub everybody up the wrong way.
Yes, and for a spy, he's very well known in the villain community.
Yes, keep a low profile. I don't think so. What I'm going to do is annoy you, nick some of your stuff.
Tell everybody my name.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So it's a slightly odd job title, I think.
It makes me think of the A-Team. We rewatched that the other day. It was on the TV.
As the film or the original series?
The film with...
Yes. Bradley Cooper's in it,
Bradley Cooper and the guy from Taken.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen plays Hannibal.
Is that his name?
No, not Leslie. Liam Nielsen.
Liam Nielsen.
Yes, Leslie Nielsen was, of course, in...
Liam Neeson. Liam
Neeson. Get there at the end.
Yes. But anyway, it reminds me of that because they have the CIA in that and they're all called Lance.
Yes.
No, that's more of a spy thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, call everybody the same name.
Yeah. They were saying that's why nobody trusts the CIA because nobody knows their names.
That would make it very difficult, wouldn't it? But if you phone up the switchboard and ask for Lance, it could take a while to get through them.
Yeah.
And we were watching an episode of House of Games, which still remains our favourite game show. And there was a lady on there who was a ventriloquist. And I wondered, do ventriloquists basically laugh at their own jokes? Because whenever you see one, the dummy will tell a joke and then the person laughs. So, yeah, essentially, it's just a vehicle to laugh at your own jokes.
It is. Oh, maybe I should get a ventriloquist doll then.
I think it'd be quite funny. It's quite an art, though.
I'm not sure I could do it.
Well, you need to practice a bit, but I'm sure you could. It'd be great in meetings. Because you'd be able to insult people and pretend it wasn't you.
That's not a bad shout, to be honest. I don't have that many meetings these days.
So. Oh, that's a good thing.
So we have started wedding invites.
Oh.
The dreaded wedding invites.
Oh, dear.
It's the first...
I haven't had ours yet.
Oh, I haven't sent them. I've just started them. It's the first stress we've come across because I'm a very organised person. Everything's booked. It's over a year away and we're starting wedding invites. But I thought we might as well get them out because we're not going to do save the dates. We're just going to do wedding invites.
Yeah, good idea.
So we've written them. We wrote them together. I basically wrote them and then Chris tried to change what I had written and we kept it how I had written it. So, minus a few things.
Okay.
So we wrote those and then I thought, actually, whilst I'm on this, I'll collate everybody and count up how many we need and get all of that sorted so that once they're done, I can just take them and get them printed. Started adding people up. I was under the impression we had around 90 guests to the day.
Okay.
We've had maybe 15 people sneak in there within the last couple of months.
So it's up to 105?
100 and... No, more than 15 then, because it's up to 107.
Oh, 17.
So I think it has gone down because I very brutally cut 2 people that weren't my guests, but I've never met them. Chris hasn't seen them in 4 years, so they ain't coming to the day.
Oh dear.
We're just hoping some people say no now. So if you're listening to this and you're invited, please say no. No, joking. I said we just need to not do as many things and save a bit more money.
Yes, I suppose so. So does that mean your number for the evenings increased or decreased? Have you moved people from the evening into the all day?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
It has decreased. Yes, but it's decreased with in mind that I've started a new job and Chris's company are employing people all the time. So we're expecting to invite work colleagues to the evening that aren't currently on the list. But the evening guests don't mean as much. We're not paying for the evening guests as such.
Yeah.
So.
Are you still having the wood-fired pizza?
They still haven't come back to me.
Ah.
But yes, we would still like to have them. So
that would be good.
We chased them the other day. But it has been Christmas. It has been busy. We know they were busy. We've spoken to them on the phone. So we're probably not a priority for them as we are so far away.
Yeah, probably not. But you still want to get it booked and...
Yeah, all I want to do is pay them money.
You'd think they'd be quite happy to take that. But yes, whatever, as you would say.
Yeah.
Now, going back through our slightly disjointed list from November, I was sent a link to an article in Car and Driver, so it is slightly motoring related, and it involves a Tesla Model S, which obviously, as well know, is an electric vehicle, so is zero emissions vehicle. As far as the owner is concerned, he'd bought a non-polluting car. However, when he tried to register it in Singapore, he was hit with the highest pollution taxation, which doesn't really make sense.
No. Is it because he was shipping it in?
Well, yes, it's not one, obviously, that they make there. So what they do, as for all electric vehicles, a grid emission factor of 0.5 gram CO2 per watt was applied to the electric energy consumption. And then they got to a figure of 222 grams per kilometre, which is quite a highly polluting vehicle. And he was... Well, they use the word fined, which seems a bit strong, but no, taxed, not fined, taxed. They use fined elsewhere. But Elon Musk is on the case, apparently. But this was in 2016.
I 100% would have sent that straight to Tesla and been like, explain this, please.
Well, it's more how the Singapore government calculate the tax on the vehicle. But it would be a bit of a shock.
It would have been.
Having said that, I do get a little irritated with vehicles that have zero emission on them because that's just not the case at all.
No.
Because you have to use a shed load of CO2 to make the thing. Mm-hmm. And you've still got to, ship it, which you've got to do with any car. So buying a new car is not necessarily the greenest thing to do. But you've still got to, a lot of this is still gas and coal-fired, and more of it is renewables. But there's still a lot of CO2 that's used in the production of electricity that arrives at your car. And if you've got a situation where the power station is some distance from where you're charging, there's a massive loss of electricity. Small local power stations are a much better bet than big centralised ones because of the power loss. But yes, that would have been a bit of a shock, having spent quite a lot of money on a Tesla. We followed one the other day, actually, and it wasn't that old, but the number plate was on wonky. And I'm thinking,
That would have stressed me out.
Absolutely, somewhere in the region of £100,000 for that car, and they can't put the number plate on straight. I mean, that is really, really annoying.
The key is in the details, and the details are showing
absolutely.
bad.
Pull over and let it go past. Didn't have to look at it. And talking of fuel, there's a couple of companies, one of them is Porsche, who are producing synthetic fuel. This looks like an absolute winner to me because it can mix with normal fossil fuels, normal petrol. We have a delivery network for it, and we understand how to do that. And back in November, the first flight in a fairly small plane, but unmodified on the synthetic petrol. So wow. It's moving ahead nicely.
That's impressive.
And there's a whole bunch of information about it and how it's produced and how it's more environmentally friendly than obviously the equivalent petrol. So there's a lot of reading to do around that, but it's gaining momentum, and I think that is a better, even if it's an interim step. If we all go electric, we won't be able to charge our cars, and that's there's no thoughts gone into the infrastructure, which is a bit of a worry. So that's really good. Bosch is the other company involved in it as well.
Who are a very good company for batteries.
Absolutely, yeah. Just electronic. Yeah, so they've got it both covered, really. Both ends.
Coming down every avenue.
Yes, and I believe they'll be cheaper because there was a bit of a to-do with Mike Brewer saying that petrol would be at £5 a litre before long. And one of the chaps from, I can't remember which of the synthetic companies, said, no, that's not the case. We'll be producing this and it will be cheaper. It will be around £1.50 a litre. Do you watch Countdown at all, or 8 out of 10 cats do Countdown?
I've watched a few 8 out of 10 cats do Countdown. Is that right? The cats
yes,
don't do the Countdown.
I think so. No, but it's the programme 8 out of 10 cats do Countdown, yes. Cats seem to just sleep in our house, but yes. Anyway, the lady in Dictionary Corner, Susie Dent,
yes,
she has had a series of very, very well thought out tweets over the last month with different words. So she has a word of the day. And this particular one, and I don't know what it was from, but at some point over December, reminder of the word nodcrafty, which is a 17th century word, which is given to nodding the head with an air of great wisdom when you actually don't have a clue.
I do that so many times. Oh, yeah.
We all do. Yeah, we all do.
Oh,
yes, so nodcrafty, it has a term.
Yeah.
He sat there in a meeting with the boss and I have no idea what he's talking about. None whatsoever.
It's the moment when they go, oh yeah, could you explain that please then? And then you're like, I was just nodding along.
Well, you then try and explain something completely different. I think that's the only way to save any grace. So that's how I understood it. So I found an odd fact out during December. What shape? No, it's odd. It's not a fun fact. It's an odd fact. What shape do you think goats' pupils are?
Goats' pupils? Do you know what? I'm going to go rogue. Triangle.
Rogue is the right way to go with this. They are actually rectangular. Didn't know that.
I really want to go and look at goat now.
Yes.
Rectangular.
I know. Apparently it's because they're more able to protect themselves when a predator comes along because they've got a almost film screen-like field of vision. I know.
I think I knew that as well.
They are bizarre, aren't they?
They are very weird.
It is weird. But it just gives them a wider range of vision.
Is that why they always look a bit psycho?
Probably, yeah.
Because they have rectangular pupils.
Yeah, you can't quite put your finger on it, but yes, they are slightly odd in the eye department. Mind you, our cat sometimes, the other day, was outside, and it was quite bright, and heard us banging around in the kitchen somehow, and then turned its head around. It had the weirdest eyes I've seen in a long while. Just terrifying. Absolutely
she was probably possessed, that's why she could hear you.
Well, I think she was on rat watch again, but...
I am still convinced that she is not deaf. She just doesn't listen, doesn't care.
She is definitely deaf because the fireworks don't bother her.
Oh, I forgot
at all.
that
They used to a lot. She used to be terrified by them, but she can't hear those anymore. Whether she could hear supersonic or not, I don't know. I expect not. Now, as you know, I'm quite keen on bees.
You do
insects.
like bees,
I do like them, and I was overjoyed I'm not going to underplay this. Overjoyed to see in Leicester that the tops of their bus shelters, where they've got a flat roof, they're actually putting gardens on to attract bees.
How cute!
Well, it's not only cute, it's a very sensible thing.
It is, because that's just a wasted area, isn't it, really?
It is indeed, yes. Yeah, so they'll be filled with a mix of wildflowers and other plants to attract bees and other pollinating insects. And hopefully they'll have them so they'll attract stuff all year round, because we have bees and obviously fewer of them, but they're operating in the winter as well. So, good selection. That would be good to see. But I thought it was a really smashing idea. So obvious when somebody shows it to you, but actually quite smart.
Yes, yeah.
I look forward to seeing that in other parts of the country too.
Now they've done it, everyone will do it, won't they?
Well, you would hope so.
Be part of a green
really
initiative.
Would hope so, yes. Right, so in a change from normal, you're going to do a Lippy top tip and a Lippy fun fact.
I have got two for everybody. Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to go make a cup of tea and leave you to it.
So for the next hour... jokes.
Hour? Well, you put 50p in the meter.
So first, we'll go top tip. We'll go normal first.
Yep, top tip.
So this is actually something Chris showed me when we were doing wedding invitations, and it has changed my life. And I don't know if anybody else knows about this, but you know when you're typing something and you've forgotten that caps lock is on?
Yes.
And you're typing away for ages, and then you're like, ah, and then you delete everything and retype it all without caps lock. You don't have to delete it. You can just highlight it and do Control F3, and it turns it back into lowercase for you.
Does that work on anything?
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was Control and F3. That's really useful.
For Word, it's definitely Control F3.
Well, let's try a text editor. This is top podcasting and no mistake. I can't find... Oh, there's my editor. Oh, no, I don't think it's going to work in that because that's really odd. But that is a brilliant top tip.
Yeah, so if in Word you end up typing in all caps, highlight Control F3. And it works the other way as well. If you want to put it into caps lock, it also... If you do it and then do it again, it turns the first letter of every word into capitals and the rest of it lowercase. So it's like a cycle.
So title case, I think they call that.
That's the one. Yeah, so
brilliant.
Very handy.
That is a brilliant top tip. Unusually for you, that is a brilliant top tip.
We can thank Chris for that one.
Okay.
So then my fun fact, which I tested yesterday and is true, and I was very excited, is... that Magnums, the ice cream, I don't know how many people know this, but frozen chocolate doesn't actually smell of chocolate. However, when you open a Magnum, it smells like chocolate. And I tested this and it does smell like chocolate.
So how's that possible then?
That is because what they do is they put chocolate essence in the glue so that when the packet is glued together, it's all like the chocolate scent is in there. And when you open it, you get a puff of chocolate scent.
Well, I never.
And it's just in the glue.
Good heavens.
That's to increase customer interaction.
Because if you smell it, you'll taste it as well. Yeah. It's part of it. Good heavens. I wonder what else they do that with.
I don't know. It baffled me, to be perfectly honest. And I went and bought Magnums, and I've eaten a lot of them to test it.
And opening the wrapper you get that waft of chocolate.
You get the puff of chocolate, and then if you take it out and you sniff the ice cream, you can't smell anything. But if you sniff the packet, you can smell the chocolate.
Well, I never.
So yeah, I would highly suggest going out and buying a Magnum and trying it.
Well, we've got your word for it, but there must be other things. So if there's other things that you've come across in the frozen foods department that smell of the contents, then let us know. Oh, I'm off to the garage to buy a Magnum. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.